Yeah, it's just simplifying it. Like you don't need to have a massive repertoire. I think it's if you can meal plan even for the next week or fortnight, go and get all the shopping done and sort of have it there. If you can prep it a bit and chop it up, if you've got support and obviously have family or a parent or something that can come in, a partner. I think it's just if you can carve that time, it's like short-term pain, massive long-term gain. And then you're not going to be out and picking up just a random bun me or a sandwich or a carby croissant with ham and cheese. It's
That's
like
high in sugar.
Exactly. It's just going to really get you through and fuel you because when you're satiated through the day and your blood sugar is more balanced, you're going to sleep better at night. You're going to feel more refreshed in the morning. It's just going to, over the course of a couple of weeks, of a month, you'll feel significantly better on the other side.
Hi everyone and welcome back to No Place Like Home. I'm Jess and we are here with the lovely Larissa.
Hello.
And Vaughne Geary back for another episode. So today we're going to talk about postpartum. Surprise, surprise. A topic we're both deeply passionate about, but, well, actually all three of us are deeply passionate about. But today we want to talk specifically about nutrition and how you can both prepare for your postpartum and how you can support yourself in your postpartum through nutrition.
Fab.
When you're talking about nutrition, Vaughn, is that nutrition and naturopathies separate from that, or do you umbrella that all under nutrition?
Umbrella it. It's
Right.
It's basically when I did my studies, I did all of the subjects with all of the nutrition students, and then they graduated after 3 years, and then I went on to do herbal medicine. On top
there
of that.
you
So I
go.
have a health science degree in nutrition, but they call it naturopathy. And then there's all the contention with
I do
it's
feel
too
that
woo-woo. And
well,
it's like, oh.
but I also worry that people don't realise that a naturopath is also a nutritionist.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's, like you are just a wealth of knowledge and it's all science.
my
It's
God,
not just, you're not just pulling things from
No.
thin air.
No.
This is a 3-year science degree.
Absolutely.
On nutrition.
Yeah. And an up-to-date nutrition degree, which is, you look at what they're feeding new parents in hospital and it's like white bread and little cups of
Jelly.
crappy concentrated orange juice. And I'm like, you've literally just given birth and you're eating all of this crap food. It's just, the science takes about 17 years from when sort of studies are done to when it actually comes out.
The translational lag.
Absolutely. So what we learned in our degree is absolutely nutrition. It's a bit more holistic in the nutrition, but I find with all of the studying that I sort of do extracurricularly to keep my naturopathy degree accreditation and to be a part of an accredited union per se, you have to do like 30 CPE hours every year. So I love reading all of the latest stats, and someone like Lily Nichols, who's an amazing dietitian over in, I think she's Canadian. She is incredible, and what she sort of looks at in terms of the sheer amount of nutrition from both food and supplemental form that mums need and birthing people need is so far beyond what anyone's sort of getting in their base range prenatal.
So that's a great segue into talking about, again, we'll talk about some specific issues, but I think probably to start off, a hormonal imbalance. So if you've given birth, and then is hormonal imbalance generally the first thing that comes after in terms of then the body going, okay, what are we doing here, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, if you've had a huge hormonal imbalance that you haven't really got on top of prior to pregnancy, it can all come crashing down and back, sometimes exacerbated postpartum, things like endometriosis and bleeding. Sometimes people come out the other side of pregnancy and when their period returns, it's a fair bit lighter than it previously was. For some people, it comes back a lot heavier.
Yeah, mine came back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
But then I also developed endometriosis after my children.
Fascinating. A few of my clients have had that and they were like, I had no idea that this could happen.
Yeah, neither did I. I always thought that it was something that you had
You were
and then
born with or
and
going
then
through.
then it was hard to fall pregnant with it and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, my endo came after.
Yeah, it's not uncommon. And I think when you just look at what happens to the body during pregnancy. Like there is the hugest hormonal shift that happens above and beyond what happens when you're a teenager, in your adolescence. That sort of peaks and then it all comes crashing down as soon as you birth your baby and your placenta. All of that estrogen and progesterone comes back down, and that's where you can classically see the mood shifts, the baby blues, the return of periods. For some clients, again, I'd get a Nobel Prize if I knew the answer to this, but why some people's period comes back and they've been exclusively breastfeeding, for 4 months, and then their period comes back regularly every cycle. And for other people, they might only be doing a comfort feed at 18 months, only morning and evening, and nothing overnight, and nothing through the day, and they still don't have their period.
Yeah.
So
when I saw someone asking one of your questions on Instagram, like tips for getting your period to come back, I was like, whoa. It didn't even occur to me that could be a thing. Like some people actually want it to come back.
Yeah, they do. And I think people think as well that you need to have a bleed to be ovulating, to be able to get pregnant, which is not always the case. So I had a client of mine a month ago tell me she's pregnant and she's 4 months postpartum. So
oh, wow.
Yeah, not planned, but comes from a huge family. I think they're a Lebanese family as well. So she was like, my husband's one of 8 children. We're keen to have multiple children, not on this timeline trajectory, but we're just going to roll with it. And I was like,
wow, 4 months. Wow.
Yeah. So hormones can absolutely shift and they come crashing down in the postpartum.
So how would someone best support that, Vaughne, through nutrition?
Yeah. So again, I'm like, good proteins, whole food diet. I think it's really about...
This is the hill you're going to die on.
It is protein. Making sure that you are giving your body the building blocks it needs to create hormones. So cholesterol is the first hormone basically that then gets converted on to your estrogens, progesterones, testosterones.
So when cholesterol's been vilified our entire lives.
Yeah, it's
and don't eat too many eggs because they've got too much cholesterol.
Exactly. It's exactly. In the postpartum, when your hormones are recalibrating, they're having a massive descent off the hill. You need those like really good essential fats in your diet from things like good quality fatty fish, nuts and seeds. There are some amazing herbs that you can sort of bring in to really support hormonal balance that I use. But from a dietary perspective, it's really about those like fatty, good protein rich, nutrient dense, foods that really basically recreate and rebuild not just hormones, but also when you think of our brains, they're over 60% fat, and we need good amounts of fats in our diet to actually fuel our brains. So many mums come to me and they're like, I feel brain foggy. I don't really have good cognition. I'm getting a bit, I feel like I'm at a point now where I'm getting sleep. Their baby might be sort of 2-3 years old, and they're just still feeling completely foggy in the head.
And
like
then that would affect your mood and energy.
Yeah,
have
absolutely.
a direct effect, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we need that just for our brain cognition, but we also need it to create estrogen in abundance, which helps us obviously have that sort of, it's our ripening hormone as women. We need estrogen to a level. They all work on a very specific ratio, and that's where I always love to sort of test hormones in the postpartum. Once a period's returned, we can look at hormones on day 2 or 3 of their bleed. We can look at it later in the cycle post-ovulation and their progesterone and where they're sort of sitting in order to know whether or not they might be having some hormonal imbalances.
And then, of course, cortisol always has an effect on all of those, doesn't it? And when we think about, if we generalise for a minute and we think about the postpartum period and how stressful that can be for a lot of women, obviously cortisol levels are increased and elevated. Hugely. And then that throws out everything, the hormones and all of those things. So ways of dealing with cortisol.
Yeah, cortisol. So nervous system support is huge for me. I think preemptively, even when I'm seeing my clients in late pregnancy, I create them like herbal tinctures to prepare them for labour and birth, like raspberry leaf and nettle, which are very like uterine toning, blood building. And then on the other side, once they're breastfeeding, obviously breastfeeding safe herbs.
Yes.
But there's some incredible adaptogens that really help. Adaptogens basically help you adapt to your environment and your nervous
Yeah.
system. If you're feeling really heightened, it helps to kind of bring you down from that more, nervous energy, cortisol-driven space. And if you're feeling really depleted as well, that really exhausted, bone-tired, it can really help to kind of build and nourish. There's some beautiful herbs.
I've been having a lot of them at the moment. I said to my naturopath the other day, I could actually just scull this bottle this week.
Do you like them now? Are you so used to them?
Well, she's actually done another concoction for me. And I have to say, I said last night at the dinner table, probably not the best part, but I said, if a sweaty armpit could be liquefied, that's what my current herbs taste like. Yeah. But my other ones that I have around my bleed time and for my nervous system, they are just
lovely.
Yeah. But I think, I've probably been having herbs for 3 or 4 years now. And my body just loves them. Like is so responsive.
Yeah.
So I couldn't recommend herbs enough to
they're incredible.
anyone. Yeah.
And so when we're talking about, low energy, mood disorders and things like that, would you say nutrition can also play a part in helping with the rage that a lot of mothers experience?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think going back to even what we were talking about in pregnancy, when you think of inflammatory foods that can really impact kind of gut health, just in general, your agitation, like excessive amounts of caffeine, obviously that kind of hitting the gut. If you haven't had a good breakfast, if you've had just a slice of cold toast and a cup of coffee, that hitting your gut is going to cause so much disaster. It basically can really send your cortisol high because you've got that like adrenaline pumping from the caffeine that's coming into the body. That can really dysregulate your blood sugar as well. And all of that can really impact mood. It's again that sort of immediate, relief of having an energy peak and I feel really good for this half an hour and I'm satiated, and then you can come crashing down. Yeah. And when you think of that for moods, it's like, okay, you've had broken sleep all night. You've got to wake up and get everything ready for the day. If you're back at work, you're going and having to use your brain cognitively to think all day, come home, do the nighttime routine. You've got a night ahead of broken sleep. You've just got so many factors there where you need food basically as the building block. There are so many amazing nutrients that can be found within food, and I love to use food as medicine as the first, port of call. There's, for some people who are a little bit depleted or deficient, really important, obviously, to bring in specific nutrients in supplement form or herb form. But it's just about making it easy for people.
You just talked about supplements, and this is a question I wanted to ask you in a previous episode. So a lot of people think that if their wee is bright yellow when they go to the bathroom after taking supplements, that's showing that their body isn't absorbing the supplements and that therefore they don't need them.
Yeah.
Can we talk about this for a minute? Because I feel like that's a myth we were told when we were in our teens. Is that true?
No, it's not. It's B vitamins create a pigment in the urine that basically makes it fluoro yellow. So
it's not, you're not weeing out the B vitamins.
No,
the B vitamins have. Yeah.
Exactly. You're not hitting a threshold and then you're just not absorbing it. There absolutely are like B vitamins, vitamin C, magnesium. They're water-soluble vitamins, so you do wee them out quite easily, hence why you see that pigment. You will get to a point where you just can't absorb anything more. Like vitamin C, you can only really absorb like 1,000 milligrams at a time. So it's better to dose them separately through the day sort of thing. But you'll still be absorbing the therapeutic amount that you need to be getting from that supplement.
I just think that's a big, a lot of people go, I clearly don't need supplements.
And then they just stop. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, no, you do. You really do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can you overdo anything?
In supplement form?
Yeah,
absolutely. There are upper limits of certain nutrients that you really need to look out for, combinations of things like zinc or some B vitamins.
Too much iron can be bad too.
Too much iron can be incredibly inflammatory. So some people some people actually have a genetic predisposition to kind of hold iron in their body. It's quite intense, and if they do not either lose it via menstruation or if they don't donate blood, it can be incredibly inflammatory and cause a whole cascade of health issues. And you see the inflammation in their body often with mood changes, with sort of joint pains and aches, an increase in infections and things like that. Another really important ratio I love to look at in the postpartum is like your zinc and copper ratio. So we need both of them, especially when it comes to mental health and that cognitive function. Zinc and copper really help with communication of our neurotransmitters in the brain to create, serotonin and dopamine and all of those amazing mood regulating.
Because nothing works by itself, does it? Like
it doesn't.
You can't just take these supplements and think that you're getting it, because there's absorption levels that impact the taking of all of these supplements and herbs and all the rest of it.
Totally. Like if you have a funky gut, and you really haven't looked after that prior to pregnancy, through your pregnancy, if you've had hyperemesis and you've had repetitive vomiting, just the entire integrity of that gut can be really impacted. And through pregnancy as well, you think about your baby growing and what's happening to your bowels. Like constipation is top of the list for a lot of people in pregnancy, but it's also you kind of losing just the general healthy ecosystem in the gut. And sometimes actually the squishing of the gut can lead to a bit of fermentation, sometimes like overgrowths in the gut that can happen. So a lot of the time I find people that have had a history of gut issues or even some health issues through pregnancy because of the immune system kind of jumping in to protect the pregnancy, it all goes away, but then it can all come back in the postpartum. So it's really important to support gut function. Herbs can be incredible with that. I'm sure your naturopath puts a little bit of globe artichoke or something.
I've got some here today you can have a look out for, see what my concoction is. For the mums out there at the moment listening who are back at work, working full time, what can be some really easy, efficient things that women can do to support themselves in everyday life at the moment?
Totally. I think meal prepping is number one. Really simplifying. It doesn't have to be a big cook-up spread where you have to think every single day about creating lunches. For me, with clients, it's like going to our book and getting, the salmon, sweet potato patties and making a whole batch of them on a Sunday. Make yourself a little slaw, even get yourself a packet of slaw from the supermarket or something like that. So you're getting your fibre and veggies, you're getting your protein and healthy fats. It's delicious. You can make a little tzatziki dip on the side and you literally just need to whack it in a container and take it to work.
Can you just make lunch for us now?
Also, like when it comes to meal prepping, I know some people feel really overwhelmed at the thought of it, but myself included. But a big thing that I try and do at home is make a meal that can be eaten over a number of
spread out through the week.
So it might be that I make soup and then half goes in the freezer for next week, or it might be that I make a different kind of soup that can then be served with pasta the next night, or making things like frittata that can last in the fridge all week.
I actually even loved what you told me the other week when you sent me a photo of how you chop up just some veggies and you just leave it in the container.
And then do it a little bit differently every day. So I chop up this. This is in my next book.
There we go.
Like a bit of red onion, capsicum.
Had celery, carrot,
cucumber, all the C's.
And
then I add a can of chickpeas, and then that just sits in the fridge. And then one day I might have it with an egg. The next day I might have it with some rice and beans. You just sort of change it every day, but you're getting. Andy has it in a wrap with falafel and hummus.
Right.
It's just like whatever way you're just getting your veggies.
It's just simplifying it. Like you don't need to have a massive repertoire. I think it's if you can meal plan even for the next week or fortnight, go and get all the shopping done and sort of have it there. If you can prep it a bit and chop it up, if you've got support and obviously have family or a parent or something that can come in, a partner. I think it's just if you can carve that time, it's like short-term pain, massive long-term gain. And then you're not going to be out and picking up just a random banh mi or a sandwich or a carby croissant with ham and cheese. It's
that's high in sugar.
Exactly. It's just going to really get you through and fuel you because when you're satiated through the day and your blood sugar is more balanced, you're going to sleep better at night. You're going to feel more refreshed in the morning. It's just going to, over the course of a couple of weeks, of a month, you'll feel significantly better on the other side.
Yeah. And then what about for the people who are listening to this that are feeling that creeping anxiety because the thought of like they're so time poor that there is no time to meal prep. Like, what do you do?
What do you do? Look,
I feel like we're all in this boat.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to carve time because it's your health. And I think
You've got to say no to
we're
some
all
things,
busy.
right?
Exactly. I think it's looking at your diary and sort of being like, look, what can I highlight that's giving me energy? What can I highlight that is taking energy away in that aspect? And if I'm well fed and well nourished, I'm going to be a better human for myself, for my family, for my relationships. Like, you deserve it. And if you're not going to, I can completely understand that going to see a naturopath can be costly and time consuming, but there's so many amazing resources out there. Our book, different cookbooks, you can get a few different things together where it's like, great, if I just have 4 or 5 recipes, 4 or 5 snack ideas. I say this to my clients in late pregnancy to prep for postpartum, but like lists for everything, pop it on the fridge.
Yeah.
Show your partner how to make it or what the way you like it, have it prepped.
Keeping a freezer inventory is really great too. So actually making sure you know what's in your freezer. And we say in the book, I know, like for me especially, sometimes the thought of eating whatever's in the freezer, I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah.
But then once it's heating up, once it's on the stove and you smell it, you're like, oh, yum.
Actually, that's nice.
Exactly. And if you do, like, there are some amazing places around. We live in one of the best food cities in the world. Like, if you have the means, outsource it. We've got some postpartum doula friends who do these amazing meal packs.
Yes.
You can hire a doula just to come and cook for you for 3 hours at your home, you know, and set you up for a week or two.
Yeah.
And again, it's money and, you know, not everyone has access to that when they've just had a baby or when they're caring for multiple kids. But
Absolutely. And the more prep you can do, if you're in early postpartum, the more prep you can do beforehand and get like, don't have a baby shower, have a food prep day where people come around and you can still honour yourself and have a bit of a mother blessing, but you can all, or get everyone to bring a meal.
yeah, instead of bringing a gift or a onesie that you're never going to put your baby
buy me
in,
a deep freezer.
Buy me a deep freezer and fill it with soup.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Exactly.
Last thing we want to just touch on before we finish up is nutrition needed for, and I suppose during, actually let's just talk about during breastfeeding, because I feel like breastfeeding is such a labour intensive thing on
It's so
the body.
depleting.
Absolutely.
It's really depleting. So I think it'll be really important for anyone listening for us to touch on nutrition through breastfeeding.
Absolutely. So I think when you just think foundationally of what breast milk is to kickstart it off, it's basically water with some carbohydrates in there and a whole heap of fat. So when you think of that, making sure you're hydrated is so important. Like, if you can everywhere you're going to go and sit and feed your baby, wherever you're feeding them, have a drink bottle next to you, have a cup of tea, get whoever's around you supporting you to put down something that's going to hydrate you and not like excess caffeine. A herbal tea that's really beautiful. There's some really beautiful herbs like we've made in the past and we're going to have at home, a really beautiful lactation tea, fennel, lemon balm, chamomile, all of the soothing, nourishing, nurturing teas. So hydration is really important. The carbohydrate aspect, again, like I've spoken about, don't try and go for your really sugary white kind of carbs. If you can really go for those really beautiful slower carbohydrates, those lower GI carbs, like
Complex carbohydrates.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet potato.
Yep, sweet potatoes, quinoas, brown rices, just
what
whole
about
grain
when
versions.
you cook the rice and then put it in the fridge overnight and then eat it the next day? That's better for your digestion.
Yeah, it
and
is.
release of stuff.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Basically, whenever you cook a starch and then cool it down, it reduces the blood sugar spike that your body has in response to it. It's just a really cool, scientific part about starchy veggies and rices. So if you can sort of cook them and cool them down, again, something that you could do, you could roast a tray of sweet potato, whatever you want to do. You could pre-boil some eggs.
Is there a whole thing around the rice, Vaughne? Like, I always am so paranoid about food poisoning with rice.
Yes.
Is there a particular like time or point of after you cook the rice? Does it have to cool to a certain?
There's a whole there's whole levels of that. I think if you like can eat rice within sort of 24 hours of cooking it, ideal.
Yeah.
It's about reheating it. You've got to get it hot enough when you reheat it
Right.
to kill the things that can grow the bacteria that
Right.
grow.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
Complex, slow carbs, and I call them slow because it's a slower response of your body having a blood sugar spike after eating them. Because the fore milk in breast milk is carbohydrates, which is really important. But for yourself, for energy, that's where we get our energy from. You want it to be that slower carbohydrate release, and then the fatty part. So we need an abundance of fat in the postpartum. You're giving so much of your own energy. You're giving so much fat in your breast milk.
Right.
You're cognitively using so much energy and needing that for brain health. So like nuts and seeds, avocado, ghee, grass-fed butter, fatty fish, all of those really beautiful like meats rendered down with their fat, slow cooked for all that collagen and
I'm
the
not
iron.
eating meat at the moment, but God, that sounds good.
It's delicious. So slow cooked meals and iron as well is really important because you're giving a lot of iron to the baby for their own growth and development. But you also need it in abundance after birth. You may have potentially lost. Standard is about 500 mils in a birth that you'll lose of blood. Cesareans can be up to 1 litre of blood. So when you think of how much iron you're actually losing at that point, you may have also been kind of pushing uphill a bit at the end of pregnancy to retain that good iron level with that blood volume increase. So bringing those iron-rich foods in afterwards and maybe even looking at something like a beef liver capsule or beef liver in your food.
Like Sheridan's.
Sheridan's forage for you.
Yeah, the mother blend.
The mother blend.
Yeah. We're going to have that
fat
at home.
Excellent.
We're going to serve it to our
shake it every day. I have it with my coconut water. Yeah.
Oh, do you have it?
I have it. Yeah. I've been having it for like the last year. I just like it in the liquid form. I have like a little medicinal mushroom immune blend that I kind of shake up with it, and it's great.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I've eaten meat my whole life, but through uni and with just stress and mama goodness, my gut function was trying to work hammer time. So my iron plummeted. So that's been my one thing that slowly I'm seeing it. I'm assessing it every 6 months and it's creeping up. So
okay. Yeah. Oh, that's really good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you once again, Vaughne. I feel like there's so much more to talk about. We could sit here all day.
We could.
But I hope that we've given everyone listening a really good snippet and start to, something that they can add into their journey at the moment. But yeah, thank you so much,
Thanks
Vaughne.
for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been fabulous.
Awesome.
This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and their guest speakers. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and content here should not be taken as medical or professional advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any personal recommendations and medical care. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate based on the best available information at the time of recording, we welcome any comments, suggestions or feedback via our website contact form, home.com.au/contact. Names and details of personal experiences may have been changed to allow for anonymity and privacy. To join the conversation, join us on social media at Home Postpartum.